Special Education Research, Policy, and Practice, an electronic peer-reviewed journal from Hofstra University's Special Education program. Special Education Research, Policy, and Practice is an online peer-reviewed journal committed to advancing the professional development of special education professionals through research, policy, and practice. Special Education Research, Policy, and Practice is an electronic journal that seeks new contributions based on original work of practitioners and researchers with specific focus on or implications for the field of special education. Manuscripts submitted to Special Education Research, Policy, and Practice are articles on research, policy, and practice relative to special education. Articles accepted may include research-based submissions that address current practice issues in the field of special education, new contributions to the field of special education, or solicitations in a variety of categories. Peer review. Peer review is the evaluation of work by one or more people of similar competence to the producers of the work. Scholarly peer review, also known as refereeing, is the process of subjecting an author's scholarly work, research, or ideas to the scrutiny of others who are experts in the same field before a paper describing this work is published in a journal. Peer review requires a community of experts in a given and often narrowly defined field who are qualified and able to perform impartial review. Peer review is a well-accepted indicator of quality scholarship. Other important points about peer-reviewed journals include peer review constitutes a form of self-regulation by qualified members of a profession within the relevant field. In academia, peer review is often used to determine an academic paper's suitability for publication. Articles accepted for publication through a peer review process implicitly meet the discipline's expected standards of expertise. Not only does peer review provide an independent assessment of the importance and technical accuracy of research, but the feedback conveyed to authors with the editor's advice frequently results in manuscripts being refined so that their structure and logic are more readily apparent to readers. The peer review process is an essential part of the publication process of special education research, policy, and practice. Special Education Research, Policy, and Practice welcomes manuscript submissions at any time. Authors are completely responsible for the factual accuracy of their contributions. Authors are responsible for obtaining permission to quote lengthy excerpts from previously published articles. Authors are notified of the receipt of their manuscripts within 7 business days of their receipt by the chief editor and receive the recommendation of the review process within 90 days. All submissions to our journal must have a cover letter indicating that the manuscript has not been published or is not being considered for publication anywhere else, in whole or in substantial part. Details of what should be included in the cover letter can be found on our website. When you submit an article for review, the typescript should conform to the following standards. Manuscripts should be submitted via email with the words "Submission to Special Education Research, Policy, and Practice" in the subject line. The language should be in English. It should be sent in Microsoft Word. The font you should use is Times New Roman or Arial. The size of the font should be 12 point, and there is no page limit. Margins should be 1 inch on all sides. At the top of the page, the title should be capitalized, bold, and centered, and the author's name should be centered under the title page. The format of the paper should follow the most recent guidelines of the Publication Manual of the American Psychological Association. All figures and tables should be integrated into the typescript. An abstract must be submitted of not more than 150 words, and a reference page is needed at the end of the paper. The following are the steps through which a submitted article will move from initial submission to actual publication in Special Education Research Policy and Practice. The article is submitted in Word format by the authors to the chief editor at the email address on our website. The chief editor then sends an email to the author stating that the article has been received and a final answer will be given within 90 days of receipt. The article is then placed in a folder that holds all articles up for review. This is only available to the chief editor and the editorial board. The article is then removed of all authors' names, affiliations, etc., so that when it is sent out for review, it is a blind review, and no peer reviewers have any indication who wrote the article or from what university it was submitted. An email is then sent by the chief editor to all members of the editorial board with a request to review the article. Peer reviewers on our board then email the chief editor as to their interest in reviewing the specific article. A minimum of 3 blind reviewers is selected. An email to each blind reviewer is then sent reviewing the peer review process. And the peer reviewers on our board have 60 days from receipt to return a recommendation to the chief editor. The ideal review by the editorial board should answer many of the following questions. Are the claims appropriately discussed in the context of previous literature? Are the claims convincing? If not, what further evidence is needed? Are there any special ethical concerns arising from the use of subjects? Have the authors provided sufficient methodological detail that the experiments could be reproduced? How does the paper stand out from others in its field? And if the manuscript is unacceptable but promising, what specific work is needed to make it acceptable? Is the manuscript clearly written? Is the statistical analysis of the data sound? And who will be interested in reading the paper and why? Ultimately, the primary purpose of the peer review is to provide the editors with the information needed to reach a final decision. Now, once all the reviews have been obtained on a specific article, the chief editor has to make a determination, and the chief editor determines whether to accept the article with or without editorial revisions, or invite the authors to revise their manuscript to address specific concerns before a final decision is reached, or reject the article but indicate to the authors that further work might justify a resubmission, or reject the article outright, typically on grounds of poor writing, lack of novelty, or major technical and/or interpretational problems. An email with the final decision and the rationale for it is then sent to the authors. And before final publication, the article is passed through 3 functions: copy editing, proofing, and layout. Regarding the editorial board of Special Education Research Policy and Practice, all members of the Hofstra University Special Education Program will sit on the editorial board of Special Education Research Policy and Practice. The editorial board is critical to the publication process. Professional membership on our board is based on many factors, including expertise, reputation, specific recommendations, and previous experience of a reviewer. Current members of our editorial board are from throughout the United States and countries across the world. If you are interested in becoming a member of the editorial board, please visit our website for more details on whom to contact and the information we need. Regarding anonymity and blind reviews, the chief editor will not release reviewers' identities to authors or to reviewers, and conversely, reviewers will also remain anonymous throughout the review process and beyond. Special Education Research Policy and Practice will be published by Hofstra University and retains copyright of all original materials. However, the authors retain the right to use, after publication in the journal, all or part of the contribution in a modified form as part of any subsequent publication. If the author uses the materials in a subsequent publication, whether in whole or part, Special Education Research Policy and Practice must be acknowledged as the original publisher of the article. All other requests for use or republication in whole or part should be addressed to the chief editor of Special Education Research Policy and Practice. More specific information on copyright and reprinting permissions can be found on our website. Finally, Special Education Research Policy and Practice has the potential to be a leading online peer-reviewed journal locally, statewide, nationally, and internationally, With a mission of being an online peer-reviewed journal committed to advancing the professional development of special education professionals through research policy and practice, our journal seeks to promote new and exciting research in the field of special education.